Yo, what's up guys? Hope you're all doing well today. First things first, I hope you'll have a great Christmas holiday if you choose to celebrate. Anyways, during Christmas, Battlefield usually gets a bunch of new players who we call the Christmas Noobs. If that's you, don't worry, because in this video, I'm going to cover what I think are the 5 most important things to go from a Christmas noob to a Christmas farmer. Even if you're an experienced player, there's a few things in here that I noticed top players messing up from time to time. Anyways, let's get into it. Coming at number 5, this is a tip that I found really helpful for myself when I first started learning the game. Even these days I find myself having to remind myself of this basic tip, and that is to turn off the autopilot. I find in respawn FPS games like Battlefield and COD, you have so many players that just autopilot the entire time. They end up just running it down life after life, and I don't think they really learn that much. As soon as you spawn in, actually try to think about what you're going to do. That way when you actually do it, you're conscious of what just happened. If it worked, take note of that. If it didn't, maybe don't do it again, or maybe try to come at the situation from a different angle. Playing like you're on autopilot is the equivalent of doing an experiment, but not recording any of the results, and then trying to write the conclusion. You're just not going to make much sense of it. Sometimes, especially streaming, I definitely do this myself, just by reading chat, or just not really focusing on the game, because I do play for like 3 hours. It's hard to stay 100% laser focused the entire time. But if I do catch myself dying a lot, I will slow things down and actually think about it. Now for the next tip, this one is a shameless plug, but head down to the description and go watch my settings video next. I'm sure this video has helped almost everyone that's watched it. Even some of my mates DM me saying they've learned things or they've changed their settings due to that video. If you don't want to watch it though, I think the single most important setting for new players is this one, ADS Field of View. 90% of you want to turn this on. It makes recoil appear a lot lower and it gives you a lot more peripheral vision, especially in a game with a lot of movement like Battlefield 2042. It just makes it a little bit easier. Now moving along to number 3, I'm going to say just learn the movement, and to make things easier, I'll just cut to a clip of me explaining pretty much all of it. Alright, so now we're just in a single player game, and I'm going to show you guys everything you need to know about 2042's movement. It's actually not very hard to do pretty much any of this, like it's pretty easy, but the movement in this game is very, very effective. I would say it's probably one of the most movement heavy Battlefield games I've ever played. So movement really has like 3 kind of uses in this game. You can use it to just get around the map faster, which I constantly do myself. You can also use movement to engage a fight, and you can also use movement to disengage a fight. Now, the first and most important thing about the movement in this game is the slide. Every Battlefield game has a slide. In Battlefield 5, you used to be able to change directions as you were sliding by looking where you want to go, and using your A and D keys. In this game, you can't do that. Wherever you slide, the direction you slide is where you're going to end up going. Now, if you just run and then hit the slide key, it's very, very slow. It doesn't really do anything. It's a pretty lame slide, to be honest. The way that most players will use this is a slide and a jump. I personally, to cover more distance, I like to do a jump, slide, jump. So basically, you just hit your spacebar, and while you're in the air, you hold down your crouch key, and then as soon as your slide picks up its speed, you let go of it and then jump again. Or you just jump out of that. So jump, slide, jump. I'd recommend practicing that. It's really, really useful. And you can use this to just get around a little bit faster. It's usually what I end up doing myself. It moves your head around a lot more, so you're not going to get sniped, or especially railed these days because of the railgun. It's just a useful movement mechanic. And if you want to jump peek someone, this is what you'll use a lot of the time. Now, to combine that with something else, you can do some bunny hopping. Bunny hopping has been around in so many different games for so long, so a lot of you guys probably already know what this is or how to do it. But my favorite bunny hopping related move is the Maxiq grapple into the bunny hop. And what that will let you do is it'll just let you get around the map a lot faster. So to do this, you basically want to hit your spacebar as soon as you hit the ground. If you time it right, you will keep the momentum, and you can even look around. If this is too hard for you though, or if you want to make it a lot easier, and you're on PC, that is, you can go into your settings and actually bind scroll down to jump. This is what I do myself. And basically all you have to do is run, jump, let go of your movement keys, and just keep spamming the scroll wheel. This is great because you can just be going in some direction. Let's say I want to go to like this flag over here. I can just be like looking around. So yeah, definitely learn how to bunny hop, and combining it with Maxiq's grapple, it's very, very useful. You can cover so much ground by doing this. Now, let's say you want some offensive movement, like if you want to engage some fights, movement is definitely something that I almost always use. I wouldn't say you want to like constantly spam movement in any Battlefield game, because there is a lot of information to be had just by walking around like a bot. Just bot walking around the place, you hear so much, and I kill so many people because they're constantly just running at 100% octane. You don't really need to do that all the time, but if you know where someone is, let's say there's someone like where this cone is, then you want to use movement to peek them. It's going to be much harder for them to hit you. Now, the most common way I'll do this is I will just use like a slide jump. And when you're doing this, there's a few tips. So the first thing, let's say his line of sight is like here. You want to be moving perpendicular to their line of sight. The closer you are to parallel to their line of sight, the actual less movement that you're going to have. Let's say someone strafes towards you, you only have to aim like this far. It's very, very easy to track. So the way you consistently can do this is you want to get really, really close to the piece of cover. I'll explain this later. And then run parallel to that, slide, jump, and then look at your target. So you can see how far they'd have to aim to track me there. It would be very, very hard to get the kill. Jump shots are also very viable. Like, your accuracy while jumping is not even that bad at all. Especially up close, you can definitely get away with it. Now, the other thing I was saying is you want to stay close to your piece of cover that you're jumping from. And more or less, it's quite simple, right? If someone moves, let's say they move one of these squares from this range here, you're going to have to like aim this far. But the closer you get, relative to the shooter, you have to aim a lot further. And people just struggle to aim further distances. So if you can get really close to the cover, if you're going to take a big wide swing, you definitely want to do that. But if you want to hold an angle, the opposite actually applies. You want to hold the angle from further away and you see deeper into the angle. Now, in terms of using movement defensively, it's definitely a very good thing to just... It's like an oh shit button in defense, right? Let's say there's someone at this rock. I've run out of ammo. I haven't killed them yet. What I will always do is I will just like look away from them, like perpendicular to them basically. Run strafe and then keep shooting. Just move my hitbox as much as possible. You want to get that hitbox out of their sights and make it a lot harder for them. You could even kind of like try to trick them a little bit. If you're reloading, like you may as well like throw some strafing into there. And of course, if you're running from bullets, I would use like a Maxiq grapple. B-hop a little bit, like get to the corner, whatever you have to do. Yeah, that's movement. Pretty simple. I don't think I really missed anything. Just making the slide more effective by jumping out of it, bunny hopping, using Maxiq grapples, and the whole idea of holding angles versus jumping angles. Anyways, hope that helps. Alright, now that you've got movement sorted, let's go cover some things regarding aiming. I'm not going to front here and act like I'm some god of aiming, but what I can say is that I'm not genetically gifted at aiming a mouse or anything, so perhaps some of the things I'm going to say are a little bit more valid, because this stuff didn't really come to me naturally. I got to the point that I'm at by just playing games and doing a little bit of aim training here and there. Now the first thing that most people do when trying to improve their aim is changing their sensitivity. Some people will even just blindly copy a pro's sensitivity as well. And while it's fine to look at the aiming settings of top players to establish a rough range of, let's say, a lower, average, and the max sensitivity, I really do encourage just playing the game and actually figuring it out yourself. And now to do this, the way I did it, and the way I just recommend doing it in most games, is to hop into a game when you're not warmed up at all. Pretty much as soon as you get on the PC, just hop into a game. And then from there, start playing around with the slider until you find something that feels natural, even when you're not warm. Because if you warm up with your main sensitivity, you're just naturally going to gravitate towards that because that's what you've warmed up for. Now, for me, that sensitivity is 34.6 centimeters per 360. I've used this in many different games and it always just seems to be about what I like. Now, that is about 1.5 in-game at 1600 DPI. I've used many different sensitivities, and in different games with lower FOVs like Overwatch or Valorant, I'll use a lot lower, or high FOV games, this is pretty much what I'll run every time. It really depends on game to game, and I wouldn't really even recommend just copying the same sensitivity across all games, because how a sensitivity feels largely depends on field of view. Anyways, what works for you will depend on your playstyle, weapon choices, range choices, and even your biomechanics. I assume it's similar on console, but that's not really my place. Maybe check out Maxiq or Jordy, links in the description for that. Anyways, now that you've chosen a sensitivity, it's time to actually play the game. Firstly, in this game, bursting a weapon is really optional, and it depends on the weapon you're using. With some assault rifles, you'll have a low first shot recoil, so you can afford to tap fire at long range. With other assault rifles, the first shot recoil is actually so high that it's very rarely worth bursting the weapon because it will just make the gun jump everywhere. You're better off to take the first shot recoil initially, and then just mag dump, keep pulling down. Doing this will require some good recoil control though, and a good tip is to not really react to the recoil, but expect it. A lot of players will shoot and then pull down, But as soon as you shoot, you know there's going to be recoil coming every single time. It's going to be usually about the same, so expect it and instantly counter it. As soon as you start shooting, pull your mouse down. Don't wait for the recoil to kick up, just pull it down every single time. I remember I was told to do this by Shady NZ back in Battlefield 4, who's known to have really, really good recoil control, and it seems so intuitive, but not everyone does it. Additionally, first shot accuracy is also something you should pay attention to. The best players I've seen all have very, very good first shot accuracy, and you'll notice that when you get your first shots in, the enemy drops pretty much instantly and they have no chance to react. It also helps a bit with your bullet efficiency, just not using as much ammo. Now at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is going to be coming down to practice. You can dial in all your settings, and once you've done that, probably don't change them. I'd like to say that I've definitely been through that, especially in other games where I'm having slumps in like competitive game modes like Valorant or Overwatch. I'll think that my aiming is bad. I have to change my settings, and it just ends up circling back to the same sensitivity I was on originally. Don't bother doing that kind of stuff. Just stick with what you've got. You're going to have off days, you're going to have good days. Just keep practicing. Now, aim trainers exist too, but if you want to get really good at aiming in the game, you're probably best off playing that game until you feel near perfect, and you only have a couple little weaknesses to iron out. If you need aim training, you'll probably know it, and it's usually not the low end of players. Now for the final tip though, at number 1, this is something that I've preached since Battlefield 4, but you have the most fun and success on Battlefield as an all-rounder. I define this as, at the very least, someone that can play a few different styles of infantry, a few different specialists in the case of 2042, and someone that can at least use one vehicle to a decent level. I think enjoying both air and ground gameplay has really allowed me to enjoy this game a lot more, and it's given me the ability to adapt a lot better. Because I spend so much time in the air, I know how to be an absolute pain to a pilot. Because I spend a decent amount of time on foot, I usually know where to find people in the kind of rotations where you can expect infantry players to move through. With tanks getting major buffs soon, I think I'll even start tanking in this game, which I hope will add a little bit more life to the game. I credit most of my fun and ability in previous titles to this all-rounder mindset, and I think it's the best way to play Battlefield games. Pretty much every single player I've ever looked up to in Battlefield has been like a Swiss Army knife style player who can just play absolutely everything, just got at everything. That is what you want to be, and I think that's how you had the most fun. Anyways, I hope you'll learn something, or at the very least enjoy the video, and with all that said, I'll see you on the next one. Merry Christmas guys, peace.